Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the story that completely twists the classic innocent summer vacation trope into something, well, deeply unsettling. We're looking at a narrative that relies heavily on isolation, sensory clues, and that slow, creeping dread you get when you realize the people closest to you might not be who they seem. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's unravel this mystery together. Okay, let's dive right into this. What if your family isn't actually your family? I mean, it's a core psychological fear, right? We rely on family for safety. But what happens when the very sanctuary you're traveling to becomes the source of your terror? Today, we are breaking down the timeline, the clues, and the absolutely chilling red flags of a trip that went horribly, horribly wrong.
Part 1. The Shimla Vacation Begins, a 1998 journey.
Picture this. The year is 1998. This is way before smartphones, GPS, or being constantly connected. 16-year-old Nisha and her 13-year-old brother Aman are absolutely thrilled. I mean, it's their first parent-free trip. But there's a massive gap between their expectations and the reality they walk into. In their minds, they're heading for a fun, carefree summer vacation, but their actual destination, it's a deeply isolated, decaying old farmhouse, completely surrounded by overgrown wild grass, with absolutely zero neighbors for miles. Oh, and the power frequently goes out. It is quite literally the perfect recipe for isolation.
Now, you might be wondering, why on earth didn't these teenagers immediately recognize that something was terribly wrong? Well, the answer is 10. It had been 10 long years since Nisha and Aman had last seen their grandparents. To put that into perspective, they were basically toddlers the last time they visited. That massive gap in time totally clouded their judgment. It acted like a psychological blindfold, keeping them from seeing the immediate danger. They just expected their grandparents to look much older and maybe act a bit weird, which made it so easy for them to excuse away some very real, very terrifying red flags.
Part 2. Arriving at the farmhouse. So after a really long train ride, the siblings finally pull into the Shimla station. They spot their grandparents and just run toward them. At first glance, everything seems totally normal, but the subtle wrongness begins almost instantly. Think about it. It is a sweltering hot summer day, and the kids are just bubbling with excitement. Yet the grandparents are wearing these heavy, thick winter shawls. And instead of hugging them back, they have these blank, empty stares and stiff, pasted-on smiles. Then comes the hour-long car ride. It's dead silent. The grandparents just stared at the children through the rearview mirror the entire time, unblinking, just watching them. What's really fascinating here is what happens when they finally arrive at this desolate farmhouse at night. Alman actually jokes that this is exactly where horror movies are shot. And honestly, he hit the nail on the head. Out on the veranda, there's an empty old rocking chair just swaying back and forth, with absolutely no wind. Inside, the house feels totally frozen in time, with heavy antique wooden furniture and creepy black and white photos everywhere. But the most alarming detail is sensory. The house just reeks. It literally smells like something is actively decaying. When the kids obviously grimaced at the putrid smell, the grandmother offered up this excuse. She said it's just cow dung from the fields, and then quickly disappeared into the kitchen. Now, wanting to be polite and, trusting their family dynamic, the kids just accepted this. But looking back at this narrative, this excuse is a massive breadcrumb. It's a calculated misdirection meant to mask a horrific reality hidden right inside that house. Part 3. Strange Habits and Red Flags. As they settled into their dark, creepy room, a whole pattern of bizarre behaviors began to emerge. First off, the grandparents called them for dinner but absolutely refused to eat a single bite themselves. Second, the house's only landline phone was completely dead, which literally cut them off from their parents. Third, the grandmother would just erupt into loud, unprompted laughter for absolutely no reason. It's so unsettling. Fourth, the grandfather would just stand there, staring blankly at the wall for hours on end. And finally, every single afternoon, the two of them would wander off into the fields and completely disappear until nightfall. The tension really spikes on that first night with this incredibly ominous instruction. The grandfather turns off their bedroom light, says goodnight, and delivers a chilling warning. He says, "Night brings out animal noises. Do not leave your room." Now, on the surface, maybe that sounds protective, but given everything we just talked about, it clearly establishes a boundary. It instantly turns this dark farmhouse from a cozy family home into a zone of absolute impending danger. Part 4. Terrifying Encounters. Escalating Horror. Let's move on and see how this builds, because that psychological buffer of, oh, they're just old, dissolves incredibly fast. The horror rapidly escalates over the next 3 days. Day 1 starts with a deeply disturbing discovery right in the kitchen. By night 2, the threat actually moves directly to the children's bedroom door. And by day 3, the supernatural elements become undeniable, completely breaking the laws of reality. Let's break these down one by one. Okay, so on the very first day, Aman is wandering around the house looking for a snack. Pretty normal kid stuff. He opens the fridge, but inside there's no normal food. There is just a single pot filled with a thick, dark red liquid. When he asks his grandmother about it, her response is just chilling. She claims it's an old family recipe, and then immediately begins to laugh hysterically. You know, that same unprompted, echoing laughter we noted earlier? It's a deeply disturbing visual that really makes you stop and question, what are these people actually surviving on? And the daytime encounters were honestly just as bad. While Alman was outside doing homework, he heard children playing inside the supposedly empty house. He peeks through a window and actually sees the shadow of a small boy, but when he goes inside to investigate, the boy is gone. Instead, Alman's attention is drawn to a large black and white portrait of his grandparents hanging in the drawing room. You guys, blood was actively pouring from their eyes in the photograph. Terrified, he drags Nisha in to see it, but by the time they looked, the photo was completely normal again. It's classic psychological manipulation, designed to make the kids question their own sanity.
Part 5. The Locked Room's Secret. The Source of the Smell.
So, the crucial point is this. The kids are terrified, their hands are cold with fear, and they desperately need answers. They realize the grandparents' first-floor bedroom is always locked, and that sickening smell of rot, it's radiating directly from beneath that door. Driven by this desperate need to know what on earth is happening, they finally take action. They manage to find the household bundle of keys, they bravely creep up those creaky stairs, and they unlock the forbidden door. As they push it open, the suffocating smell of decay hits them like a physical wall. They finally found the source. Stepping into the dark room, they have to physically cover their faces against the overwhelming stench, and there, laying right on the bed, are 2 bodies in a state of advanced decay. Nisha forces herself to step closer and look at the remains, and right around the neck of the female corpse, resting on that decaying chest, is a very specific locket. It is the exact same locket that the grandmother downstairs has been wearing this entire time. In that second, the ground completely falls out from under Nisha as she realizes the horrific truth. The rotting bodies on that bed are her real grandparents.
Which leaves us with the ultimate terrifying question. If Nisha and Alman's real grandparents have been dead in that locked room for days, who or what picked them up from the train station? Who has been watching them from the rearview mirror, making them dinner, and wandering those dark halls at night? Just think about the implications of that isolation, the dead phone line, and being completely trapped with imposters. We're going to leave you with that chilling thought as we wrap up this explainer. Seriously, what would you do if you were in their shoes?